I guess I spoke too soon. A lot of folks always ask me this question, especially right around the start of winter. Primarily new tractor owners will ask me how long I warm up the tractor before I start operating it. I do the same thing every day. In the wintertime, once we start getting temperatures below zero, I consistently always use the block heater first. Depending on how cold it is, I'll leave it in for at least an hour, and a little longer if it's a lot colder. But always block heat first, unplug it before I start the tractor. In your tractor's manual, you'll find a chart somewhere in there. I can't remember what page it's on for the 2610, but it'll be a chart that will tell you or guide you as to, depending on the temperature outside, how long you should warm up your tractor before you begin to operate it. And it'll have on one side of the chart different temperature ranges, and then it'll tell you how much time in minutes. For me, notwithstanding using the block heater in the winter, I will always warm this thing up for at least 10 minutes before I begin operating it. She's a little chilly today, but I want to get outside. But I'm feeling a little lazy as well. So I think what we're going to do is grab the tractor and the heated cab and head back, grab a trailer and head into the forest and maybe pick up some rounds that we've left behind along the trail. Just want to get out, do something today, nothing too special. But it's a good reminder today, now that the temperatures are starting to become -Celsius, there's a baffle in the front of your carburetor and your chainsaw. You need to pull it out and turn it around for winter use. Otherwise, your chain's going to run really rough. Well, this certainly brings back some memories. I know a lot of you folks that have been with me for a while, I've asked a few questions in and around how things have changed, the way we work our firewood or we process it up here over the last decade or so since I had the pleasure of meeting Neighbor Guy and Husky Bob. And things have changed quite a bit. This area here, as you see around me, you may remember from earlier videos several years ago back on the channel, this clearing here, which is now a clearing, the valley just beyond, that hillside over there, a little bit in beyond into the back, on the back trail, all the way back down in there and further down the trail were areas where we used to primarily collect our logs or fell our trees, you know, limb them, get them bucked up, and then hauled out to the trail so we get them split into firewood. Looks like I left some really good stuff out here. So I think I'm gonna buck this up, get it into the trailer and head on back. I think I forgot to chip some of those branches a few years ago. But nowadays things have changed quite a bit. We've got 2 tractors now, as you know. The Grapple, huge efficiency boost and so effective and productive. We've had the benefit and the good fortune of being able to try different commercial types of splitters, especially most recently with our good friend Andrew Easton at Easton Made. And all of a sudden you realize that when you've got a 4-second cycle time against an old 15-second cycle time, it's a big difference, and processing wood goes a lot quicker. The log trailer this year, a couple of trailers and still some guys hanging around, we still get together and do it, but hauling logs up to the shed, bucking them and splitting them there, as well as doing some in the forest, has really created a big efficiency and allowed us to process that wood far faster than we ever did before. Far faster. And of course, back then we had the one tractor. Well, I didn't. Guy had the 3400, a whole lot of chains, a couple of firewood trailers, and 1 splitter. It's an old conventional style splitter. And thought it was really great until you start to realize that 15-second cycle time is not that fast, especially when you're trying to push somewhere around 25, 26 cord of wood between him and Husky Bob. But I'll tell you, back then, it was a bit of a chore, and I certainly understand now why a lot of channels or folks that are selling firewood as a side business or a main business are actually buying their logs. Because a lot of times people don't realize if you don't do it regularly or you don't do it on your property, it's a long process from the time you scout out the trees, fell them, limb them, buck them into 8 or 10 foot lengths, back your trailer wherever you can and get, 50, 60 feet of chain back there, hook them up and drag them out bit by bit until you get out to a main trail where you're going to be able to process them further. It takes a lot of time, not a lot of effort, and it's kind of fun when you're hanging out with your friends, but it certainly is not a quick process. And that's how Bob and Guy primarily used to get all of their logs. Right back here in this forest where we still work today. We just work in different areas, to make sure we're thinning it out, not taking too much from one area or another. But those were the days, I'll tell you, 1 log at a time, 2 logs at a time, big long trains, hauling them out, then you'd back up, shorten the chain, haul it out some more, try to get out to a main trail, and then we'd use log tongs to try to pile them into 4 or 5 piles throughout the forest. And then every fall we'd have 1 or 2 wood weekends, that Guy would call it. And wood weekends, they were a ton of fun, but a ton of work. Usually Guy would go to a nearby town, rent a couple of more splitters so that we had 2 or 3 splitters going. Everybody would be coming off down the concession road. There'd be 6, 7, 8 guys here at least. And we'd work all weekend long on all the piles or all the log piles, bucking them up and then hauling them onto a local splitter, many of them rented, splitting them into trailers and then hauling the trailers up. And there'd always be 1 or 2 guys that were responsible for stacking out at the woodshed. That's how we did it every year. Anyways, I hope that was helpful and answered some of the questions that I've gotten from you folks over the last few months. But that's kind of the big sea change that's occurred. Different equipment, more efficient and more productive. And yeah, we're still dropping a ton of trees, but limbing them and chipping those limbs, Really important, you'll notice that Guy's forest is pretty clean, especially compared to mine, because he doesn't often leave those piles of limbs. He eventually comes back and chips them out into the forest floor. Good nutrients, good soil, and it keeps a nice clean forest for him, and he likes it that way. So these guys have been here at least a year and a half or more. I can feel them, they're dry. So they'll make for some good splitting and some good heat. But hey, you know, when you've got an afternoon or a lazy afternoon, it's nice to get outside, no pressure. I've got nothing else to do today, so you throw a trailer on the back of the tractor, grab the old 261 STIHL and go for a little track through the forest. You'd be surprising the gold you'll find. Thanks for sticking around with me today. I just wanted to get out, get some air, get out into the forest. It's a little chilly, but it's kind of better than getting stuck in the cabin all day. Have a wonderful week with your families. Please be kind to one another, and I'll see you again right here on GP Outdoors. Cheers.